Peace talks have taken place in the past as well, General, and they've failed in the past, we've seen. So what's different this time around?
See, two, three things are very different this time. First of all, there is no denying the fact that Trump has made up his mind that he will be finally withdrawing. The timeline may be differ. Second issue is that the Taliban is also very keen that some sort of negotiation is done this time, because if the negotiations are done, then only the US and NATO troops will withdraw. Now, this is the start point, but both are suspicious of each other, because both think that he may outwit the other one. Now, as far as America is concerned, America is worried that in case any negotiation is done, what is the guarantee in case the NATO and US troops withdraw that Taliban stick to the promise done by them, and thereafter the government can fall. So therefore, prematurely withdrawing from Afghanistan can be catastrophic. So that is one issue. As far as Taliban is concerned, they are worried that time and again the timeline has been given for withdrawal of US troops and NATO troops from Afghanistan, like Obama has also given, but it has never been materialized. So therefore, both are suspicious on each other. One issue which was coming as far as Khalil Jad was concerned, he time and again told that you have to give us 2-3 undertakings. Now, as far as the talks are going on, one is that you have to ensure Afghanistan soil not to be utilized by international jihadis like Islamic State and also Al-Qaeda. This promise has to be done by them. Now, that one is not sure whether they will able to abide by that or not. And second thing, what they are trying to tell is that the ceasefire has to be comprehensive. That the line which are given to it has to be followed by both the sides. The issue which is coming is, now Zalmay Khalilzad is saying that some sort of negotiation must be reached, because there are elections which are taking place in month of July as far as the president is concerned. They say if the negotiations are reached well in time, then the Taliban, if they come overboard, they recognize the constitution of Afghanistan and they declare the ceasefire, they are most welcome to contest those elections.
Right.
So that is also the point which is in the back of mind of American. Now, as far as the Taliban is concerned, the seriousness which is there is that Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar, who was a co-founder of Taliban as well as a military commander who was in prison in Pakistan for 8 years, has been released, and he was participating in this talks. So they are also very serious that talks should materialize. But the point is now how things unfold. Zalmay Khalilzad said that nothing has been so far, is agreed, and until unless everything is not agreed, nothing is agreed.
Right.
So therefore, they will go very cautiously. Both sides are weighing each other and then going. That's why they were saying that joint draft will be announced, but nothing has been announced because no one is sure of each other.
Right. And Pramit, where does this leave the Afghan government really?
Well, the Afghan government obviously is in a bind. If tomorrow the Americans cut off their aid supply, in particular, the money and ammunition and weapons, the Afghan government really, its time would effectively be over, as happened with the previous Najibullah government when the Soviet Union cut off its supplies and support. So obviously they will seek to either delay the American departure, or if the Americans decide that they strike a deal with the Taliban or they come to one, that it comes along with a very strong American commitment to keep supplying money and weapons to the Afghan government. The problem will be really is that in the closer the Taliban and the Americans come to an understanding of U.S. troop withdrawal, the weaker there will be among a lot of the fence-sitting groups in Kabul and elsewhere to continue to be supportive of the Kabul government. They'll assume, therefore, that the clock is ticking here, and why, therefore, should I put my support behind the Afghan government? I would expect to see a large number of desertions or greater desertions in the Afghan National Army. A lot of local leaders and warlords and so on would immediately begin to withdraw their support or begin talking directly to the Taliban. So any U.S. troop withdrawal, no matter what happens or in whatever framework it is done, would probably begin to reduce the credibility and the coherence of the Kabul regime.
Absolutely. And Dilip Sinha, what are some of the contentious issues really that need ironing out in the days to come?
Conditions in what sense? For the Taliban, for the
You know,
Americans?
for all the players, there are so many players there, what really needs to be addressed first so as to ensure we see long-lasting peace in Afghanistan, because that's what we are interested in, really.
Yes, what the Americans are hoping is that if they get the Taliban on board and get them to join the government in a peaceful manner, then they will be able to keep the other slightly worse devils, that is the Islamic State and the Al-Qaeda, out of Afghanistan. Now, that is a fond hope.
But with the US withdrawing from Afghanistan, won't it be a free-for-all?
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying, that it's a fond hope of the Americans that once they withdraw, the Taliban will keep their promise of not allowing the Al-Qaeda to come in. Remember, the invasion of Afghanistan took place because of the Al-Qaeda, not because of the Taliban. So, and with the Taliban, the Americans are prepared to live with them, provided the Al-Qaeda and the ISIS don't come into Afghanistan. Because they regard the Taliban as essentially an Afghan-centric movement. They might be anti-women and anti-education, but they don't have a global view. They don't have a view of spreading jihad all over the world, the way Al-Qaeda has, or the Islamic State has. So from the American point of view, a localized state of the Taliban in Afghanistan will hurt some people in Afghanistan, but that they can live with that. But not with the Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State coming in.
Sure. And General, how important is it to have, a peaceful Afghanistan so as to ensure stability and peace in the region itself?
Very important. In fact, Afghanistan to be a peaceful is a requirement of the day for South Asia and world over. Because see, it lies in a place that Central Asian states are there on the north of it, and toward the east is the Pakistan, and toward the west are the Gulf countries. Now, if Afghanistan remains an area of disturb, then it will create, first of all, there is a danger of not only Taliban coming into power, it is also Al-Qaeda and also Islamic State coming. And it flowing toward Kashmir is very much possible. That is point number one, which we have to be very careful. And the second thing is that we have known that experience from 1996 to 2001, when Taliban was governing Afghanistan, they went 50 years behind. What was happening is they were following the Sharia law, and execution and amputation was a part of the day. The women were not allowed in public life. Democracy was not there. The freedom of press was curbed. So there is a danger of this in case Taliban comes and Al-Qaeda and Islamic State all come. So this, they will again follow the Sharia law. So that will create a disturbance in the whole area. Now, for us, it makes a lot of difference as far as India is concerned, because we have just taken over Charbar, and we are trying to, through Charbar, going to Afghanistan and Central Asian states. For us to have a stable Afghanistan is very important. We have hugely invested in infrastructure and capacity building. We have also utilized almost $3 billion, one of the highest regional donors there after America. So therefore, for us also, Afghanistan must remain stable. If there is Afghanistan which is under turmoil, will have implication all over South Asia as well as world over.
Right. Pramit, that having been said, clearly, like the General has just pointed out, there's a lot at stake for India, really, as far as Afghanistan is concerned. So how should we proceed?
Well, I would argue that we may wish the Taliban and US talks to fail, and the present status quo more or less to continue. Obviously, we can't actively support such a position, but that would be, and I think what we would be fundamentally, our policy would be to support the Kabul government as much as possible, because even during the process of the talks, even if they were to fail later, even if they were to continue, however, 1 year, it would undermine the confidence of the Kabul regime. And it will be very important, I think, as much as we can, to try to keep that confidence up. Because even, as I've said, the process of talking will strengthen the hand of the Taliban on the ground. And that's something we should try to mitigate against as much as we can. But other than that, I don't think there's very much we can do, and I think we should be making it clear to the Americans that we at least have no problems with their presence there. And besides what the General has mentioned, you have to keep in mind that one thing, the present unrest in Afghanistan and the maintenance of an independent Kabul regime has meant is that it bogs down Pakistan.
Right.
I mean, there is a direct link, if you wish, to the presence of a Taliban or a pro-Pakistani regime in Afghanistan and the problems that we have faced in the past in Kashmir and elsewhere.
Sure.
The more Pakistan is worried about a two-front policy or containment between India and Afghanistan, the less willing they are to provoke us or give us trouble.
Right. Closing comments now from all my guests, starting first with you, Dilip Sinha. You know, Pravit seems to suggest that there's nothing much that India can do really in Afghanistan, but do we have some kind of a leverage there?
I think we do, in the sense that it's a soft leverage that we have. Our image in Afghanistan today is great. We have made a huge comeback in Afghanistan. The Afghan people are our greatest allies over there. So we should use that, and we should promote this idea from the expat population of the Afghans, as well as the new generation that has grown up in Afghanistan in the last 17 years, to try and impress upon the Western countries that this is a new Afghanistan in which the Taliban are out of date. They should not be allowed to come in. And if they come in, then they must come in on the terms of the Afghan constitution. And this message should go out from the Afghan people themselves to the Western governments. And this, I think, we can certainly use our soft power there to try and persuade them, because their future, while we will suffer, but they'll suffer the most over there.
Right.
The entire new Kabul will get destroyed if the Taliban come in. So that is something that we should be able to use, and use that as an influence on the Western governments.
General, what's the best way forward for India?
As far as India is concerned, India will like that the Americans and NATO troops can stay as long as feasible. Because the moment they withdraw, our problem starts. Because we have hugely invested in Afghanistan, both infrastructure, capacity building, and also soft power. And therefore, the issue which is coming in, it is a big dilemma as far as India is concerned. How do they go about it? Now, there is no the solution to it. Now, in case if Taliban comes tomorrow in some or the other form, as to if Taliban is not to come, then why Americans are having direct talks with Taliban? And therefore, it looks like that Taliban will have some sort of role in the government which will come in future in Afghanistan. So therefore, India must be vigilant and alert. That somehow, however, whether backdoor diplomacy and all should remain relevant. In case there is a change of government, which is there, in case the American withdraw finally, say in 1.5 years or 2 years, that whatever government comes that time, that we should have some sort of relation with them, whatever is the government, because investment is very huge. We cannot be saying that in case the present government stays there, we are there, and in case the Taliban comes to in some or the other form, then we reach to a dead end. That will not be correct, because our investment is huge and our options are limited. So we should be trading our path very cautiously and try our all means to pressurize America not to withdraw so fast, and also to pressurize America to ensure that the interest of India is safeguarded in Afghanistan, because if India stays there, the Afghanistan is stable.
All right. Let's not forget, Pramit, that there are other players in the region as well. So quick closing comment on what's at stake for them as well.
Well, I think the country that we will probably have to work more, if the Taliban were to come to power in some variety in Kabul, would be Iran, who have their concerns about the Taliban. They've had a very difficult relationship with them. Unfortunately, Russia, I think, increasingly aligns itself with China and Pakistan on the Afghan issue in particular. But curious enough, China is a country that is very focused on stability overall. They are very nervous about Islamic terrorism. They have that problem at their residence in their own country. And they have tried to position themselves as a neutral broker in Afghanistan. And curiously enough, I would argue that if Pakistan decides to convert or try to convert Afghanistan into a terror base again, the country that would probably be most disturbed and one country would possibly work with is China.
All right. All right. On that note, then, we'll call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's it on this edition. See you again next time.